All right, so Sean writes in with a great question about TSP distributions under the CARES Act. His idea, and it's a great idea, is to say, hey, I'm going to take a $100,000 distribution from my TSP and roll it over to an IRA, effectively getting out of the TSP with a stringent distribution rules and over to a self-directed IRA. I think it's a great idea. But the TSP hasn't issued any guidance yet if they're going to allow that. The only guidance we have from the TSP is that they'll allow a waiver of RMDs. All right, so TSP, look, every plan under ERISA, remember, ERISA is the Employee Retirement Income Security Act from 1974. The reason they passed ERISA to begin with was because pensions were not, private pensions were not funded appropriately. So all these people say, pensions, like we used to have in the old days. They don't know what they're talking about because those pensions left a lot of people in the lurch when it came time to actually get your pension money. So they passed ERISA, and now because that fewer companies offer pensions, rightly or wrongly, but it's not because the companies are being greedy. It's not because pensions solved all the retirement income issues that we had. It's simply because the pensions of the past were not funded very well. Some didn't even pay out. Crazy. All right. So the ERISA rules apply to all employer-sponsored retirement plans. I don't think they apply to government pensions, though. That's one of the things that your local municipality with their pension can be way underfunded, but your local plant, which offers a pension, can't be. It's very interesting. Again, the government passes rules you and I have to live under, which they don't. All right. So in this case, ERISA plans can be a lot more stringent on distribution rules than what the IRS allows. That's just the nature of the beast. So our IRA, for instance, is very liberal in terms of having like powers of attorney, stretch IRAs, which is it's somewhat eliminated, but you still stretch an IRA to 10 years for a non-spouse beneficiary. ERISA plans can be a lot more stringent. So in this case, TSP is an ERISA plan, presumably, and because of that, they don't have to act very quickly on new guidelines from the IRS. So in this case, TSP hasn't issued any, none. And I just looked as of April 30th. No updates on whether or not you can take a distribution from your TSP under the CARES Act. It's crazy. So I have no idea. We have no idea if you can do this. So again, Sean's trying to move $100,000 or whatever he said. I don't know what he's got in there, but take advantage of the rules under CARES Act and roll it over to an IRA. We don't even know if you can take a distribution under the TSP IRA regardless. We don't know. So the answer, Sean, I don't know the answer to your question because TSP hasn't issued any guidelines. Now, I'll tell you, there is some bad information out there, man. So I was looking around when I'm walking with Pablo. Pablo, hi, yeah. Hoping he'll take his morning poop, but he hasn't done so yet, which is boggling my mind. But anyway, and I came across FedSmith. I think it's what FedSmith, and those people, whoever runs that website, are very active in TSP knowledge, but they made a critical mistake here. And I was like, yeah, a guy had written, probably if you type in and go to DuckDuckGo, TSP rollover CARES Act, probably the first result on the search engine results page, the SERP, will be an article from a guy named Mike, I forgot his last name, Scully, I think, under the CARES Act, under FedSmith. Is it FedSmith? Yeah, FedSmith, I think. It doesn't matter. So he said, and this is wrong, he says you can take a distribution under your IRA for $100,000 penalty free if you pay it back within 3 years. If you pay it back within 3 years under the coronavirus, as long as you are affected somehow by coronavirus. I mean, everyone's affected by coronavirus. Don't quote me on that, but it'd be hard to imagine the IRS saying, oh, Josh, you were not affected by coronavirus. Okay. Anyway, so presumably you were affected by coronavirus. You can take a $100,000 distribution from your IRA. Now, your 401k plan is different. It's actually kind of funny because a guy who used to be a big supporter of mine, but he since went calling me a nut job because of my disdain for the lockdown. Some of these guys just gotta be, it's weird, man. Like, they've got to be right all the time. So he had emailed me something and it was wrong. And I emailed him back and said, you're wrong here. And then he emailed me like 5 things about his own employer plan. And I said, dude, your employer plan doesn't have to follow the guidelines established by the IRS. They don't. They can be more stringent. So your employer plan is what's holding you back from taking advantage of this, not the law itself. Anyway, it's just this is one problem with arguing with people on the internet. Everyone has to be right. So this is what I think he was almost embarrassed because he was so adamant that he was right. And when I showed him that he was wrong, that all of a sudden he kind of turned on me. It was very weird. I feel bad, actually, that people get like that. It's like, it's okay to be wrong. My goodness. It's okay not to know. But he's an attorney, and attorneys, they have this predisposition to know everything and to cite rules and regulations. And then, they can't see the forest for the trees, though. And I was like, anyway, it was, this is the issue I have actually with people practicing financial planning who don't have experience in doing financial planning. Because it sounds easy on the front end, but when you actually get into it, there's a lot more that goes on with financial planning than just, picking some Vanguard mutual funds. Actually, going back to the Fed Smith one here. If you look at the Senate, the rules from the CARES Act, and I literally just read the Senate rules, it said explicitly the 10% penalty is waived as long as you suffer from the commie virus and somehow. It did not say you have to pay it back within 3 years or anything like that. And the reason why it's important to me to look at that is because, man, if Fed Smith is right, that's the first I've heard this. Maybe I'm wrong, where I've been saying you can take it out penalty free. Look at him. He just loves the sun. Pablo is definitely a Spanish dog, a Latin American dog, because he loves a warm air and the sun. He just loves sitting in it. And of course, he loves tacos. Tacos. But anyway, so I was looking at Fed Smith, and I was like, worried. I said, man, maybe not just me, but everybody that I've known who advocate or talked about this, and maybe we're all wrong. Maybe we missed something in the guidelines, the regulations. And the answer is we haven't. If you look at the Senate, it says explicitly, you just go to senate.gov, CARES Act, there is no 10% penalty, even if you don't pay it back within 3 years. So you just got to be careful when you're reading stuff, because these little tidbits of misunderstanding. And look, that means you got to double check me too. I'm not lying to you. Hell, I'm just some dude on YouTube pick up dog poop. You know what I'm saying? In my basement. But at least not in my parents' basement. But anyway, so you just got to be careful, because you're going to read something and you're going to make an assumption based on that. And while that assumption might sound feasible, it might not truly be. So double check your work, because you gotta look at what you always gotta look what you could be missing. Oh boy, Bob wants to get that mask. Can you all see that? Yeah, right there. There's a mask on the ground. That's not social distancing, leaving your mask on the ground. All right. Anyway, so Sean, there's no guidance yet from TSP. I'm not holding my breath that there will be. And the reason for that is because when they make a change, and I remember this at USA, when we had to change an annuity contract because I had a guy who basically got screwed by USA, and it was nuts. And I said, man, you guys are crazy. You can't let this happen. And I'll never forget, I was worried that they were going to let this happen. No, that's yucky. And what they were going to do, this guy, I said, if they let this happen, man, he's going to be freaking fired up, and he's going to write, probably even, it'd probably go on my record, even though I had literally nothing to do with it. Just USA was so incompetent, which ultimately came back to bite me in a different guy. It's crazy. But anyway, so USA, thankfully, someone in charge said, we can't do this guy, this colonel. and they fixed it, but they had to change the annuity contract. They had to change it for all 50 states, because each state has its own rules and regulations regarding annuities. And it was a monster. They're going to go poop. It was a monster. I remember, I'll never forget that. It's like, oh boy. Because I was always worried about if they are going to change the rules retroactively, how that could impact. And they just said it's not going to happen because every single rule has to be changed for every single state. And it is a monstrosity of an endeavor to do that. So I was like, whew, that's good. So just remember, when it comes to annuities, once you're locked into one, your old contracts, the contract language won't change because it has to change for each state, and they're not going to do that. It's just way too expensive to do that. What they do is they do en masse new contracts because new contracts have to get approval by each state, and they'll do it to their benefit for sure. So just keep that in mind. All right, Sean, hope this helps. Thanks, man.